Good morning, friends. Good morning. It is it is morning. It is Wednesday morning. It is Wednesday morning, middle of the week, hump day, and all that stuff, whatever you want to say. Susan's not on yet, otherwise she would be chuckling about that. Sorry. I'm Brian. I'm the pastor here at Christ United Methodist Church, and this is PB Reads the Bible. That's me. I'll be reading the Bible. It's something we do most days. Can't quite say every day, but most days we're together doing this. And this is episode 9 on our journey through the book of Judges, which is the 11th book of the Bible that we've done. And we're a third of the way through, a little bit more than a third of the way through. I guess it's going to almost time for me to start looking at what we're going to do next. I'll have to kind of map things out. Maybe I'll sit down with my calendar later and map it out, figure out when we're going to finish this, and then start looking at what we'll be doing next. Take me a few days to get that process all done and decide. Might be another week before we get that decided. But anyway, we're here for episode 9. Go ahead and check in. Let me know that you're watching, whether you're watching live or watching some other time today. It's morning for me, and it's morning for some of us, but some of you might be watching tonight or tomorrow or next week. But feel free to say hello anyway. You can say that to me. You can say that to each other. Good morning, greetings, romper room roll call, somebody called it. And also use that chat section, the comment section of this to make comments or to make questions about what I'm saying or anything you've got going on. And if you're live, I'll try to answer it live. Sometimes I don't see them right away. And if you're watching later today, it might be tomorrow or the next day before I get around to answering your question. I'll do my best. If for some reason I don't get around to answering your question, ask it again. Send me a text even. Maybe that'll work better sometimes. 570-351-1619. To do the same thing, to check in or to leave comments or questions. So we got some folks checking in over here. Good morning, Cheryl. It is a beautiful morning. It's a beautiful morning. Nice and warm. Gonna get colder, I guess, this later this afternoon. This is almost like the high temperature for the day, from what they're saying. Good morning, Cindy and John. Good morning. Good to have you folks with us today as well. Just a couple announcements, all having to do with worship. We've got worship on Sunday. It'll be the last Sunday of this series, the last Sunday of this series. We've been working our way through the Lord's Prayer, and this week will be the last one for that. This is also going to be Boy Scout Sunday. We'll be doing something to recognize some scouts, both from our troop and from a neighboring troop as well. Good morning, Marcia. Because one of our folks here doesn't live in town; they live elsewhere, and so he goes to a different troop. So we're gonna help them out and honor their troop as well, recognize their troop as well, and celebrate Boy Scouts. Next week, 1 week from today, is Ash Wednesday, the first day of Lent. So a few things will be taking place. Several things will be taking place that day. I'll be down the road at Brio Coffee House for a couple hours, offering ashes to anyone who wants them. Anyone who wants to stop by. Pastor Dave will be next door at Noah's Ark for an hour or so for parents and staff or anybody that wants to stop by there for ashes. And then in the evening, 7 o'clock, we'll be having our Ash Wednesday worship experience. And that begins our, excuse me, that begins our next series, which is called A Disciple's Path. It begins our next series, which is called A Disciple's Path. So actually next Wednesday, we won't be having this PB Reads because I'll be elsewhere with those ashes. So we'll skip next Wednesday, but I'll remind you about that on Tuesday, just to make sure. And then that series on A Disciple's Path is going to take us up to Palm Sunday. Then we'll have Palm Sunday and Holy Week. Extra special in Holy Week, of course, we have Holy Thursday service, or Maundy Thursday, whichever you are more used to hearing it. There's a brief aside. I'll tell you the difference between Holy Thursday and Maundy Thursday. What is Maundy? Growing up, I always thought it was Monday, Thursday, which never made sense to me. I could never understand it. And then I understand it as Maundy, M-A-U-N-D-Y. Still didn't know what it meant. I thought it was just interchangeable with holy or something like that. There is a difference. There is a difference. The word Maundy comes from the Latin word for commandment. So technically and theologically, it's really only a Maundy Thursday if you are celebrating, if you are having a foot washing service, a foot washing ceremony, makes it a Maundy Thursday because that's the commandment from Jesus that it is referring to. Otherwise, it's really just a Holy Thursday, but we're not going to change things. I don't want to get run out of town and breaking with tradition of a naming. So we call it Holy Thursday / Maundy Thursday, whatever works for you. But it's a special one this year. Yes, of course, we will be having communion and we will have scripture readings, but I guess you would say it's going to be a Holy Week cantata. We're going to tell the story of Holy Week, including Holy Thursday and Good Friday, through music, through song, and through scripture interspersed. So Matt and I we've got something that we're starting with, and we're going to make some modifications too. We're going to pick some songs. We don't even know yet. We're planning stages, 5, 6, 7 songs, along with some scripture and communion. So I think it's going to be wonderful. I think it'll be powerful. I think it'll be a very powerful and meaningful experience, but that's way out ahead. All right, Maureen, another sunny day here. Good for you. Good for you, Maureen. It's not as sunny as it was yesterday, but it's decent out here too. All right, so we're going to get to chapter 9 now. Excuse me. So we finished the story of Gideon. Gideon was chapters 7 and 8. 7 and 8? Yeah. Or actually 6, 7, and 8, right? 6, 7, and 8 was Gideon. Now we're into chapter 9, which is after Gideon, and it's going to be the story of Abimelech. Abimelech was Gideon's illegitimate son. His son through a concubine, through a slave woman. And that's important because that does affect Abimelech, his psyche and his behavior. Knowing that, being treated as a less than, I'm sure. Being treated as a less than. So this is going to be the story of Abimelech. Now, was Abimelech a judge? I'm going to say maybe or sort of, but Abimelech is the first person to refer to himself as king. He's the first person in Israelite history to call himself a king. Israel has not had a king before now, and Israel's not going to have a king again after him. He tries to make himself king, and he rules for 3 years. 3 years. I should have said spoiler alert on that one, I suppose. And then that's important because it shows that downward spiral. Everybody else so far has ruled for a long period of time. He does not. So we're going to find out what happens. Ooh, and a character that I told you to keep your eye out for re-enters the story, an inanimate object. Now Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal, went to Shechem, to his mother's kinfolk, and said to them and to the whole clan of his mother's family, saying in the hearing of all the lords of Shechem, which is better for you, that all 70 of the sons of Jerubbaal rule over you, or that one rule over you? Remember also that I am your bone and your flesh. So the mother's kinsfolk spoke all these words on his behalf in the hearing of all the lords of Shechem, and their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, he is our brother. Pause. I'm going to pause there. Again, of course, I'm reading from the NRSV, the New Revised Standard Version, which does tend to make things unisex quite often, and translates earlier on here, right in the first verse, they translate it as mother's kinsfolk, whereas the NIV translates it, and I'm going to say a little bit more literally, his mother's brothers. His mother's brothers. Kinsfolk is an acceptable translation. The word can mean that. But the author probably had brothers in mind because of the irony here that's being set up by it, by his use of the word brothers, because he has a problem with his brothers, and he is going to his brothers to try to solve that problem. And the people, the leaders of Shechem, the lords of Shechem, say, he is our brother. Okay. So we'll talk about why that's ironic a little bit later. Although I'm sure you'll get it. They gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the temple of Baal-berith, with which Abimelech hired worthless and reckless fellows who followed him. Riffraff, basically just riffraff. Oh, sorry. I don't have a glass of water. He went to his father's house at Ophrah and killed his brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal, 70 men on one stone. But Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, survived, for he hid himself. Then all the lords of Shechem and all Beth Millo came together, and they went and made Abimelech king by the oak of the pillar at Shechem. Pause. Aha! So his problem with his brothers, he decides to solve that problem by killing them all, by executing them on one stone. Remember, that's that. And this is going to be ironic by the time we get to the end of the story. But remember, there was the use of a stone early on in this story by Gideon. He used it basically as an altar to worship God. And it's in Ophrah. And now this guy goes to Ophrah to kill all of his brothers on one stone. Same stone? I don't know. Other doesn't say that, but kind of hinting at it. But it's a stone in the same town, and he kills them all except one. One gets away. So the irony here then is that these the lords of Shechem, oh, he's our brother. Well, this is how he deals with his brothers. They should be worried. They should be worried. Continuing. When it was told to Jotham, oh, and I'm sorry, pause, back up again. So they made, the people of Shechem and Beth Millo made Abimelech king by the oak of the pillar at Shechem, which they, but Bible scholars and historians, sociologists, whatever, see that as probably a worship place, a place of worship. Especially because it talks about this pillar. And since they were talking about taking money out of the treasury to that Baal god, we can presume that this is also a place where they worship one of those false gods of Canaan. Continuing, when it was told to Jotham, he went and stood on the top of Mount Gerizim. Pause. Now, Mount Gerizim was a place that that you went on the top of to pronounce a blessing. To pronounce a blessing. That's what took place on Mount Gerizim. So, let's see what Jotham has to say, how he's going to bless his half-brother. And cried aloud and said to them, listen to me, you lords of Shechem, so that God may listen to you. Oh, that sounds sweet. The trees once went out to anoint a king over themselves. So they said to the olive tree, reign over us. The olive tree answered them, shall I stop producing my rich oil, by which gods and mortals are honored, and go to sway over the trees? Then the trees said to the fig tree, you come and reign over us. But the fig tree answered them, shall I stop producing my sweetness and my delicious fruit, and go to sway over the trees? Then the trees said to the vine, you come and reign over us. But the vine said to them, shall I stop producing my wine that cheers gods and mortals, and go to sway over the trees? So all the trees said to the bramble, you come and reign over us. And the bramble said to the trees, if in good faith you are anointing me king over you, then come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. Pause. That doesn't sound like a blessing. Obviously, it's a fable. It's a fable. He's talking about trees, but it's quite obvious that he's talking about the lords of Shechem, that the lords of Shechem are the trees, and they are seeking a ruler. And so they ask one of the best trees, the olive tree. Then they ask another one. They ask the fig. They ask the vine, the wine tree, right? Each of those that they ask and say no served a purpose. They were good trees, good vine, that produced something of quality, something that was useful. So they finally ask the bramble to come and be our king. The bramble was good for nothing, but that's the point of Jotham. The bramble is good for nothing. In fact, the only thing the bramble was good for was to be used as kindling for a fire. That's all they would use bramble for. It can't produce anything that you can eat or drink. It does not give shade. The bramble says, "Come and come and I'll give you shade." The bramble does not give shade. Well, not very good shade. I suppose a little piece here and there, but I would end up with a cross patch of sunburn on my head if I saw shade under a bramble. The only thing it's good for is starting a fire. And how does his fable end? But if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. Now, therefore, if you acted in good faith and honor when you made Abimelech king, and if you have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done to him as his actions deserved, for my father fought for you and risked his life, but rescued you from the hand of Midian, but you have risen up against my father's house this day and have killed his sons, 70 men on one stone, and have made Abimelech, the son of his slave woman, king over the lords of Shechem, because he is your kinsman. If, I say, you have acted in good faith and honor with Jerubbaal and with his house this day, then rejoice in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech and devour the lords of Shechem and Beth Millo, And let fire come out from the lords of Shechem and from Beth Millo and devour Abimelech. Then Jotham ran away and fled, going to Beer, where he remained for fear of his brother Abimelech. Pause. And he says, if you've done all this in good faith, then you'll be blessed. But he throws right there in there, he inserts, but these are the things my father did, and this is how you're repaying him, killing all his sons and giving this son of a slave woman to be king in his place. And hey, if that's good, then fine, blessings upon you. But if not, fire. Let fire come out from Abimelech, because that's all a bramble bush is good for. And let fire come out from you and consume him. Continuing. Abimelech ruled over Israel 3 years, but God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the lords of Shechem, and the lords of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech. This happened so that the violence done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might be avenged, and their blood be laid on their brother Abimelech, who killed them, and on the lords of Shechem, who strengthened his hands to kill his brothers. So, out of hostility to him, the lords of Shechem set ambushes on the mountaintops. They robbed all who passed by them along that way, and it was reported to Abimelech. When Gaal, son of Ebed, moved into Shechem with his kinsfolk, the lords of Shechem put confidence in him. They went out into the field and gathered the grapes from their vineyards, trod them, and celebrated. Then they went into the temple of their God, ate and drank, and ridiculed Abimelech. Pause. Notice again, it's still saying the lords of Shechem. The lords of Shechem. That's important to remember. It's not everybody in Shechem. It's not the regular townsfolk. That's important. It is it's only the lords of Shechem that are doing all this stuff. Gaal, son of Ebed, said, "Who is Abimelech, and who are we of Shechem, that we should serve him? Did not the son of Jerubbaal and Zebul, his officer, serve the men of Hamor, father of Shechem? Why then should we serve him? If only this people were under my command, then I would remove Abimelech. I would say to him, increase your army and come out." Pause. In vino veritas, perhaps, but actually in vino strength. The guy's got beer muscles, so to speak. That was an expression anyway. And he's bragging, perhaps because he's drunk. But who is this Abimelech? And he's referring back to Hamor, who is mentioned in Genesis. There was a problem between Hamor from Shechem and Jacob and his family. I believe that was Jacob and his family. But he's referring back to him because he's the founder of Shechem, and so he's claiming this close personal, deeper ties with the people of Shechem than this slave woman's son. But he's bragging about what I would do. When Zebul, the ruler of the city, heard the words of Gaal, son of Ebed, his anger was kindled. Pause. So it seems that one of the people, one of the lords, one of the rulers of the town, is on Abimelech's side, and his anger was kindled. He sent messengers to Abimelech at Arumah, saying, "Look, Gaal, son of Ebed, and his kinsfolk have come to Shechem, and they're stirring up the city against you. Now, therefore, go by night, you and the troops that are with you, and lie in wait in the fields. Then early in the morning, as soon as the sun rises, get up and rush on the city. And when he and the troops that are with him come out against you, you may deal with them as best you can." So Abimelech and all the troops with him got up by night and laid in wait against Shechem in 4 companies. When Gaal, son of Ebed, went out and stood at the entrance of the gate of the city, Abimelech and the troops with him rose from the ambush. I'm going to pause here. The gates of a city are traditionally closed at night and then open first thing in the morning to allow good people to enter the city, travelers and stuff like that, to be hospitable, but to close it at nighttime for protection purposes. All right. I'm sorry. So continuing, Abimelech troops rose with him rose from the ambush, and when Gaal saw them, he said to Zebul, "Look, people are coming down from the mountaintops." And Zebul said to him, "The shadows on the mountains look like people to you." Gaal spoke again and said, "Look, people are coming down from Tabor Erez, and one company is coming from the direction of Elon Me on Enim." Then Zebul said to him, "Where is your boast now, you who said, 'Who is Abimelech that we should serve him?' Are not these the troops you made light of? Go out now and fight with them." So Gaal went out at the head of the lords of Shechem and fought with Abimelech. Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him. Many fell wounded up to the entrance of the gate. So Abimelech resided at Arumah, and Zebul drove out Gaal and his kinsfolk, so that they could not live on at Shechem. Pause. So Abimelech defeats his adversary and defeats the lords of Shechem. That's important again. They're mentioned in here. He defeats them. He fought with them. He defeated them, and sounds like it should be the end of the story, right? This is the one person who spoke up against him, and the one group of people who were against him. So it should be done. Should be over and done. He beat them. He defeated them. He punished them, whatever way you want to say it. But is he done? On the following day, the people went out into the fields. That would be the regular people, the townsfolk, just the people trying to live, going out to do their jobs. When Abimelech was told, he took his troops and divided them into 3 companies and laid in wait in the fields. When he looked and saw the people coming out of the city, he rose against them and killed them. Pause. Why? There was no need. It seems that he inherited something from his father Gideon, Zerubbabel. This idea of vengeance, and going not an equal amount of vengeance, but far over what was needed. He's not satisfied with only getting rid of the lords of Shechem. He's going to kill them all. And then he doesn't even stop there. Abimelech and the company that was with him rushed forward and stood at the entrance of the gate of the city, while the 2 companies rushed on all who were in the fields and killed them. Abimelech fought against the city all that day. He took the city and killed the people that were in it, and he razed the city and sowed it with salt. Pause. So not only did he kill everybody, he razed the city. He smashed everything. He turned it to dust. He tore down all the buildings, and demolished the walls and everything, and sowed it with salt. Putting salt in the ground makes it no longer, you can't grow anything. So by doing all this, he is making sure that Shechem never rises again. When all the lords, now some of the lords were still around, even though he defeated them. Some of them lived because they escaped, right? But again, he's not happy with just defeating. When all the lords of the Tower of Shechem heard it, they entered the stronghold of the temple of El-Berith. Abimelech was told that all the lords of the Tower of Shechem were gathered together. So Abimelech went up to Mount Zalmon, he and all the troops that were with him. Abimelech took an axe in his hand, cut down a bundle of brushwood, and took it up and laid it on his shoulders. Then he said to the troops with him, "What you have seen me do, do quickly as I have done." So every one of the troops cut down a bundle, and following Abimelech, put it against the stronghold. And they set the stronghold on tower over them, so that all the people of the tower of Shechem also died, about 1,000 men and women. Pause. What did Jotham say? Let fire come out from Abimelech to devour you. And this is exactly what he's doing. Using brushwood, brambles, to start a fire and killing everybody that's in the tower. Let's continue. Let's finish Abimelech's story. Because he's not done. He's not done. Just as his father went from one town to another, killing everyone just because they mocked him, he's not done with his vengeance. Then Abimelech went to Thebez, which has not been mentioned before. We don't even know why you would want to go there. And encamped against Thebez and took it. But there was a strong tower within the city, and all the men and women and all the lords of the city fled to it and shut themselves in. And they went to the roof of the tower. Abimelech came to the tower and fought against it, and came near to the entrance of the tower to burn it with fire. But a certain woman threw an upper millstone on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. Immediately he called to the young man who carried his armor and said to him, "Draw your sword and kill me, so people will not say about me, 'A woman killed me,' or 'A woman killed him.'" So the young man thrust him through, and he died. When the Israelites saw that Abimelech was dead, they all went home. Thus God repaid Abimelech for the crime he committed against his father in killing his 70 brothers. And God also made all the wickedness of the people of Shechem fall back on their heads, and on them came the curse of Jotham, son of Jerubbaal. End of chapter 9. So there's more irony here at the end too. He killed all of his brothers on a stone, and then he himself is killed by a stone. Well, you could say technically he was killed by his armor bearer, but he was going to die. His head was crushed, it said. And more irony, it was a woman that killed him. He said, "Oh, kill me so that," no, they don't say a woman killed me. Well, every time we read the story, we know that it was a woman that killed him. So kind of like Sisera being killed by Jael, by the hands of a woman, Abimelech is killed by the hands of a woman. Now, rather than it being an outsider who has waged war against the people of Israel and then killed by the people of Israel, or a member of the people of Israel, it is a person who is an Israelite, who is within the community, who has brought war into their land, into their nation, into their people. And then he is killed by a member of Israel. So is that just a hiccup in the story of the judges and the story of Israel, or is this another sign of Israel's downward spiral of quality of judges and faithfulness, and are they completely descending into political and religious chaos? We shall see. We shall see. So, friends, thank you for joining me this morning. I do pray that this has been beneficial to you, that you have learned something or relearned something through something we said or something we've read, that God has spoken to you in some way. As you go about your days, not just today, but every day, keep those eyes and ears open to what our living, loving, active God is doing in your life and in the lives of those around you. When you see it, when you hear it, say, thank you, Papa, and then tell somebody about it. Until we meet again, my friends, be blessed.